Welcome, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Today is February 14th. Um, and my name is Alex Manriquez. I'm a data analyst at CSIS supporting CalPads. And driving for us today, it's going to be Mr. Gary Kerwer. We're going to move on to announcements. The Fall 2 deadline is March 1st. And that's just around the corner, folks. So there's no amendment window for this. And that is just 2 weeks away, right? And that is roughly about 11 working days because of holidays. So just, be mindful of your time, be mindful of your errors. And there's no SELPA approval, which means that you get to be certified earlier, but don't just rely on that because, you know, how it usually goes. The closer we get to the deadline, the slower CalPads tends to be. So sooner the better. Um, Also, in terms of announcements, is that next Monday, February 19th, the service desk ticket will be closed. We CSIS are on holiday, and so CalPads will be available. There won't be anybody answering your tickets next Monday. So you'd have to wait till next Tuesday. On to some good news, as Marshall asked from me. The monitoring report 16.21 is now available in CalPads. So for all you folks out there that have been asking for this, there's the LEA and SELPA monitoring report 16.21 available. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Martha, Angela, or Sean, anybody from CDE.
Alex, did you just want to point out where they should find the SELPA report now?
Yes. Thanks for that. So the SELPA report, monitoring report, you have to go under reports and then go to SELPA reports. And it'll be all the way at the bottom. It'll have a new header that says monitoring reports underneath your SELPA reports. So we've gotten some feedback that it used to be under the monitoring reports tab, but now SELPA folks, you need to go under your SELPA reports for that report as well.
Did you cover where the LEAs find the report?
I did not. It's the same. It's the same place that used to be, but for all the LEA folks, that'll be under reports, and it will be under the accountability/monitoring reports, and that's where you will find your 16.21 monitoring report. And just FYI, folks, that there only is the student list. We don't have an aggregate, right? So in previous years, we used to have 16.7, which was the aggregate, and then 16.8 was the student list. This year, we are only giving you the student list. So
that was just based on recommendations from SELPA, because so what we figured out was you guys don't really use the aggregate report. You use primarily the student list. And so rather than develop two reports and you only use one of them, we just gave you the student list.
I'm assuming no other announcements then? Move forward. All right, so we're going to start off with the chat box with Kelly. Oh, Kelly says Happy Valentine's Day. Next, we have Rebecca from Fresno COE. Hi, Rebecca. Says Q1, can we certify data even though report 4.3 continues to reflect duplicate information? Let Martha or Angela.
I believe you can.
Okay. The underlying data is there, right? And so it's just a matter of the report reflecting more data than it should. It's picking up last year's records as well. But you know, we are hoping to get that fixed in next Tuesday. Next up, we have Susan, Q1, wondering about the Cert 48. Oh, sorry, jumped. Cert 48 and 84 error defect resolved today. For one school, the Cert 48 and 84 errors cleared immediately. For another school, there are still 24 Cert 48 and 84 errors. Another revision posted, and there are still 24 Cert 48s and 84 errors. But when I look at the demographics and assignments records, they are there. And then we have another person, Val, from Bellflower, saying the same for them. They have 5 teachers with valid end dates, and they're still showing on the error list.
I had that same ticket, different users earlier today, Alex, but when I looked, the errors were valid. They had a more recent staff demographic record that did not have the employment end date populated. So if you'd like us to take a look at it, go ahead and send in a ticket and be sure to include the seeds that you would like us to review. And you don't need to include all 24, Susan, just a handful for us to look at. We could probably detect a pattern for you.
Okay. Moving on to Derek, Q1. If a charter school hires a contractor as a teacher, should that seed be reported as all 9s? I believe that the guidance is that whenever possible, if you have the seed and all the staff's demographic information, you should report that. Otherwise, the seed of all 9s will automatically create a misassignment for you. However, if you don't have the necessary demographic information, then you won't be able to submit an SDEM. And so even if you had a seed, you wouldn't be able to report that. So CalPADS would allow the generic seed of all 9s, but just be mindful that it would automatically, you'd get a misassignment for it.
And then Alex, I missed part of the question. He said that they were a charter school, but it was a contractor. But did it say a course?
Says hired a contractor as a teacher.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Okay, I missed that part. So yeah, your original guidance is correct, and that's in the FAQ, the CalPADS FAQ under fall 2. I would just make sure again, who is the teacher of record for that class, though. I understand that it might be a contracted sub, but again, when was that sub serving as? And if it wasn't as of census day, you may not necessarily need to report that information.
I'm gonna move on to Christina, Q1. I have a 12th grader who has left our high school and is now attending an adult school to earn their diploma. How should I exit this student? Do I use T160 since they are technically going to a school in California, or something different since it is an adult school? Also, should I code them as a non-grad? I think we've gotten this question before, and I can't commit this to memory for some reason, but
I think it's T260.
Yeah.
T260.
It has the transfer to adult school. And then you would mark them. They did not graduate from you though. So you, actually the code isn't, no. They completed, they're not a grad, they're a completer though still, right, Randy? Because they completed the highest grade level with them, but didn't graduate. Is the code that's used.
So the T260, essentially, when you use the code T260, it ends up
It's
in
going to void it out.
the non-grad category. Because
Okay.
they're not a completer.
Yeah, thank you.
So for ACGR purposes, they would be a non-grad.
Thank you.
No problem.
Next, we have Amber from La Mesa Spring Valley, Q1. Directed towards Sean. Last week, you mentioned something about 504 programs and not making them school specific if you use Aries. Would you say the same for all programs, such as EL programs, or was this specific to 504s only?
I'm going to go with 504s only because they sit in a separate area within Aries. Oh, no, but actually LIP programs. Oh, I did you know what I did? I did a manual upload for that one, and I did leave it blank. And if Sandy Madrid is on here, or if Jan is on here from Aries, on the Aries conference, it's coming up. And so they will be able to tell you exactly which course that information is provided in. I want to say it's one by the older lady with the squeakier voice that does the manual. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, guys. I realized.
All right, we're going to move on to Larnie, Q1. It says for certification error, CRSE 640 F2. The count shows 71. However, when you click on show, I only see 6. Why is this? Is there truly 71 errors or only 6? Larnie, we usually see that behavior whenever there's a mismatch between the revisions and the CDDs. So the revisions and the CDDs process separately from each other. And so what that usually means is that your CDDs ran and you fix the underlying data, but your revisions need to catch up. And so you need to wait for a new revision to show your true number of errors. Another way that you can check is if you go to the data discrepancy screen in CalPADS, and then you select fall 2 from there, you should be able to see your updated, and I think Gary's going to show us where to go for that. But yeah, there you go, data discrepancies. So again, your data discrepancies turn into CDDs, or some of them do. And so on this screen, when you select fall 2 and say apply filters, you should be able to see just those 6 that are remaining. We're going to move on to Sabrina, Q1. Report 4.3 has prior year info. There is no workaround. What is the suggestion for auditing the report for accuracy?
That is a known issue, and it's going to be fixed on Tuesday.
What Martha said earlier, if you want it to be able to certify, and you guys are all clear, we don't see an issue with it.
Okay. I have a private message, but I think it may be beneficial for other folks on the call. So this is from Nicole, says, what do LEAs typically use the 16.21 report for? Brandy, did you want to take this one or?
Sure. So 16.21 replaces reports 16.7 and 16.8 from last year. 16.7 and 16.8 are to assist LEAs and CELPAs in monitoring whether or not their LEAs are holding timely meetings for their students with disabilities. So there are statutory requirements for those. So LEAs have to hold initial evaluations for special education within 60 days of parental consent for evaluation. Plan reviews must be held at least once every 365 days. And then eligibility reevaluations have to be held a minimum of once every 3 years. So these reports show the reports that were released today specifically address the annual plan reviews and the triennial eligibility reevaluations and whether or not they've been held in a timely fashion.
Thanks. Moving on to Shannon, Q1. How do you assign an RSP teacher during cushion pull out for part of the day and teaching content the other part of the day? Partial FTE as 27 and partial as 12? That's how I would advise that you set it up, the staff assignments. I don't know if anyone else has a different opinion on that.
No, I agree. And then just assigning the RSP course along with it, besides the 10 and the 12. I don't remember the number. It's in a flash. And the codes.
We're moving on to Lydia, Q1. What is the appropriate staff assignment for an EL, English Learner Coordinator? And what is their corresponding non-classroom based assignment? For an EL coordinator.
It depends on whether or not the site level or at the district level. So there's 2 codes. There's one for a site level coordinator and a district level coordinator. The difference between the two is that site level coordinator can be a teacher on a local assignment option. District level program coordinator is going to require an admin credential. But there are 2 different codes. I don't have the specific codes, but I would just look for a program coordinator in the classroom-based codes.
And Brandy, those positions are always credentialed. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
We're going to move on to Swansetta Q1. To clarify for admin, the new change in graduate cutoff date requirement, are we talking about a cutoff date or a completion date by June 30th? No backdating for students short a few credits to graduate. So for the summer graduates, we create a one-day enrollment in the next year for them to be counted as fifth-year graduates. Thanks. I thought the cutoff date was August.
So we put out the letter that said we weren't, I think a letter to superintendents on the web page, on the CalPADS page.
Oh, I think
So,
Angela just posted it.
Communications.
I just posted it in response to Swansetta.
oh yeah,
Or
thank you.
So not
So-
this year, but next year we're changing it.
That's correct. But for the summer, okay, Swansetta, I think you tied like 5 questions into one, baby. Good job though, because I'm like they're all kind of related. Students short a few credits to graduate. So the graduation date, that is going to be determined at your local level. The graduation date should be the date that the student actually completed all of their coursework. I'm not going to get into the backdating portion of that. We're just going to leave that as yeah, talk to your local directors there. For the summer graduates, yes, you should be reporting your summer graduates as summer graduates. And again, the completion date and which they actually completed. Okay. And would they be counted as a 5th-year graduate? That depends. If they're a summer grad, they are, it's the proposal of the additional column, and then they would be reported in that column as just like the summer grads. And I think that answers all your questions.
But for purposes of 4-year ACGR, Sean, they wouldn't count in that rate?
No, they would not. Sorry, they would count then in the 5th-year graduate because they were past the cutoff date there for it. But do you still get credit for those? Yes, you do. And yes, Rebecca, you are right in your comment. We are additional guidance is forthcoming, and that's what the letter states that Angela posted.
Right. Derek, I see your question too, and we'll circle back. Laura from Santa Rosa Q1 says, I have several sections of course 9215 free period that are receiving an error for ed services. There is no content being taught. Do I enter integrated? So you're getting the ed services, and I forget what error code it is off the top of my head, but I believe that it's any section where there's an EL student reported. And so therefore CalPADS is requiring that you provide us the education services field be populated. Now, if there is no content being taught, what code do you enter?
The teacher still needs to be credentialed properly. So that one ties to the teacher's record. So that teacher should have their full authorization.
But this is a free period for this student. They're not scheduled. It's just a free period.
I know, but doesn't the teacher, that's what I was saying, doesn't the teacher still have to be credentialed though properly? I understand no content is being taught. So there's nothing to teach, but the teacher themselves are credentialed properly to say if instruction needed to be taught, then they would.
So I would.
We'll take this one offline and respond
Yeah.
back to you in a ticket.
Yeah, the bottom line is, folks, if you look on, my advice to you is to go on to the assignment monitoring tool to see whether or not they're requiring a credential for free period. I don't even think we send these over to CTC. We don't even send these particular records over to CTC.
Mm,
And if we do, they're not requiring a credential for it. I can almost guarantee it. But we can, Sean can respond offline to this one if she wants to, or I'll look up some information while we're waiting.
yeah, I will. Laura, I've noted your question, and I'll create a ticket and get that going. Thank you.
All right, at the 3:12 timestamp, we have 2 links or downloads from Marshall, and it's the Fall 2 data population training, I believe, and then the Fall 2 reporting and certification training.
Yes, that's the table of contents for both all the training on the YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on now to Sarah from Coast Unified Q1. If a student was exited at the end of the school year and expected to return for a 5th year of high school but never returned, would I code that as a no-show? No. A no-show should be reserved for students that are brand spanking new to your school. But if it's the student that was with you last year and you were expecting them to return, then that wouldn't be a no-show.
And then Angela put in there correctly too. You're right, Alex. But then Angela put in there what you would code them as, and that's the E230 360. They completed the 12th grade without completing the graduate requirements. That is something that you would do within your amendment window for the prior year, because you've already submitted last year's data, and so you would amend that student's E155 that you originally posted.
Next, we have Jerry.
Alex, just as
Yeah.
a follow-up, at 9215 free period, those courses are not checked in CalSAS. I just verified it. So we don't send those over. So it's totally appropriate for you to put no EL services.
Awesome. Okay, so we're continuing with Jerry. Says, hi, Alex. Hi, Jerry. Question 1, regarding the new Student with Disability Monitoring Report 16.21, the monitoring category column now includes ethnicity, race, and foster youth and Title I Part C migrant. Are these options supposed to be in this column? They were not in the previous version of the monitoring report.
Are they filters or just columns?
They're filters for sure. I wonder if that's what he means. They shouldn't be categories under the monitoring category. Gary's showing us the report mapping guide. So yeah, up a little bit further.
That report is very wide already, so I would be surprised if we tried to squeeze all that info in there as well.
Yeah, but they are filters.
Now, if you're seeing values in the monitoring
Right.
category column of ethnicity, race, foster youth test, then there's something wonky there with your view.
Well, there is an ethnicity column,
Mhm.
12.
But I'm pretty positive that the foster youth and the Title I aren't columns in there. But they are filters.
Mhm.
So let us know if maybe we didn't understand your question correct, Jerry. Next, Angela posted at the 3:15 timestamp the description of report 16.21 and included the mapping guide link. So that's where Gary's showing us up on the screen now. And Marshall at the 3:16 timestamp gave us for later reference. This is the creating and maintaining SSIDs for students with disabilities and CALPADS training. I think this is also the table of contents.
Yes, both of those are the table of contents for the Brandy's Roadshow.
Okay. Oh, and then right below that you have the one of the roadshows, the one the SPED redesign.
Yes,
training.
and that's where there's a location in there where she goes over all the reports in detail.
Thanks. Okay, and then we have Larney's Q2. We'll just circle back. That we answered. Yesenia, Q1. How do I report a teacher on sabbatical leave? The teacher has been gone all year long. I believe that's just a 6018, the on leave, non-classroom based assignment.
Yes, and then the FTE, the 0.00.
There is also some additional guidance in the photo FAQ regarding sabbatical leave.
Thanks, Karen. So, Yesenia, if you go to either CD's FAQ, and I know there's also a section in the Fall 2 roadmap within the user manual that shows you how to report teachers on leave, and you can look at it and in the user manual as well. Sarah says, thank you. Gabriela, Q1. Are you still holding the SACE CALPADS meeting on the 19th? It's not a holiday.
Good call. Yeah, somebody else pointed this out to me. So it's not SACE CalPads, but it's our special education office hours are scheduled for next Monday. I am going to move them to Tuesday because of the holiday, just to kind of, and we'll probably be focusing not only on our the new special education road shows that we're getting ready to announce in April and May, and we'll also go over the monitoring reports. So, but we will be moving those to Tuesday. You should be getting a notification if you are registered for those meetings.
Okay. That takes us to the end of Q1s, as far as I can tell. So I'll circle back up to 310. And we have Derek from Cajon Valley, Q2. For students who are being assessed for IEP, not IFSP services, but are not yet 3 years old, initial Part B meetings are held within 60 days of the 30th, or sorry, not 30th birthday, 3rd birthday. After their assessment, the special education status effective start date is set to the 3rd. What? After their assessment, the special education status effective start date is set to the 3rd birthday, which is in the future. When we attempt to send these records, we get SWIDS 517. Special education start date must be less than or equal to current date. Validation error on the SWIDS record. Is there some way that validation could be amended to allow future records in these scenarios? Or would you recommend we work with SACE to see if they can automatically suppress records for future start dates? Thank you.
So, Derek, we actually, this is an issue that we've talked to SACE about before. They have been aware since the redesign that, because we let all vendors know that we would not accept future start dates for statuses. The only record that we allow future dates is currently the plan effective start date. And we don't, we did discuss the alternative of changing that and allowing future status start dates. But as we kind of went down the rabbit hole and talked about some of the potential implications of allowing districts to date status start dates in the future, the chances of compromising data integrity was too high. And so I don't know whether or not SACE is working on a potential future solution with this. So I would reach out to SACE to find out. But this is something that we've talked to them about before. We are not planning on modifying the validation to allow future status start dates.
And our next Q2 is down at 321 timestamp, and that's Larney. Q2 says we have been getting a lot of notifications for verification from ETS. The new one I saw this morning is the notification to verify the change from EL or TBD. For those who had already started the LPAC testing, a change from EL or TBD will require stairs. With that being said, if we started testing a student assigned to TBD, for example, and we realize they are a mid, what do we do now? Finish the administration of initial LPAC, merge the SSID, or do the stairs first? Seems like a painful consequence for assigning a new SSID in error. Is Thor on? No.
So I'm sorry, I might be able to try and answer it.
Please.
If Store is not on. Notification to verify the change from EL to TBD for those who had already started LPAC testing. Yeah, this typically happens with mids. What do we do now? Finish the administration of the initial LPAC, merge the SSID, or do the stairs first? Okay.
The stairs first. So what I'm hearing, Brandy, Thor doesn't have a mic. Yeah, sorry, long story. So I'm sorry, because I think I only heard half of the question too, and you were catching back up. But what I heard was that basically they found a student and it's a mid-merge student, but they already started testing them.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead and submit the stairs request. Also put in a ticket with that student's SSID numbers and a little like history with it. What I didn't understand though, is this the summative or the initial? I'm thinking the initial because it's a mid-merge.
Yeah, it's well.
Okay.
They started the initial LPAC, says.
Yeah, it's probably the initial because there's a TBD record.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and put one in. So then that way we can reach out to ETS on our side and try to get everything cleaned up and as smoothly as possible. And so then that way the student is able to test correctly for the summative.
Thank you. Going back all the way down, because I think those were all my Q2s. At the 3:30 timestamp, Karen posted the link to the user manual for teachers on leave and how to report them. And then right below that, we have the FAQ. How does a sabbatical leave of absence get counted towards the staff of years? So those are the two resources we had talked about earlier. Jerry responded to his original question, just said, sorry, there was an issue when viewing the Excel sheet. So no issue on the 16.21. Okay, good. Stella from Nevada Unified, Q1. Should a home hospital teacher whose caseload is not tied to a school be reported at the district level as itinerant teacher 27?
So all students, hold on. So all students should be reported to their schools when applicable. Like I have to toss that one in. But with that, since all students should be reported to their schools, then the home hospital teacher should be reported to those schools. We understand that that can be a little cumbersome sometimes, especially because that means they're being like applied to different schools. However, I believe there is a way if you're using Aries, I believe there's a way to exclude that from like your master. Oh dang, what's it called? The master, not master school, master
schedule.
Thank you. Lifting. Thank you, Alex. I was like,
Mhm.
what's the second part of that word? If you're using another SIS system, I'm not fully, I need to know which SIS system, if that helps. And if it's easier for you to put in a ticket on that one, I'll gladly work with you.
Next up, we have Shannon. Q2, the follow-up to my question 1 at 307. If the staff assignment is partial FTE of 12, do I assign the state course code for the content they are teaching? In other words, math, English, etc. Or do I use 9231? Do I use instructional strategy code 700 either way? So the state course that you would be reporting under the course section is just whatever content they are teaching, right? So whatever they're doing for their RSP, that should be one course. And then additionally, you'd have the other courses, whatever other courses they're teaching, math, English, science, whatever. Whether or not you code them as instructional strategy code 700 is only based on whether the students enrolled in those particular sections are students with disabilities. So, and they all have to be students with disabilities, right? So it's for sections or course content that has been modified specifically for special education content. That's when you would use code 700. I think that's it.
It's Valentine's Day. Many people went home early or something.
Yeah, they ate too much chocolate and they're just crashing now.
I feel for them.
Looks good, guys. What do you
Brandy's here. Why is no one requesting that she sing? I was like, whenever Brandy's out here, everyone wants Sean to sing now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
now that the singing legend is here, I'm like, that's what we should be asking.
We do have a new question coming in from Mary Masters. Question 1 says, can you review that superintendent letter again? All right. So this is the end of year. So this is talking about the graduate cutoff. And we had originally suggested that the cutoff time dates would be from August 15th to June 30th. Then if you scroll down a little bit, yeah, there you go. There's CD has determined that the CALPADS end of year deadlines is going to stay for this 23-24 school year. End of year deadline is August 16th. And then the 4-year cohort graduate cutoff date would be that, it always aligns with end of year, right? So it would be that same August 16th date.
You have to graduate by August 15th to be counted in that year.
Correct.
EOY ends on the 16th, but you have to be graduated by the 15th. Sorry, that was confusing.
I'm glad you clarified that.
And there is more information coming for this, Alex. I promise you, we're just waiting for clearance. So yes, we will provide more information to you all in the flash. We will also review in the March regionals.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy, you wanted to say something?
I'm sorry. What were we saying?
Oh, no, I thought you were going to say something.
We're asking you to sing, Brandy.
Good job, Martha.
What?
That's what the chat is all about.
That'll be our Valentine's Day surprise.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of a love song.
An Adele song.
You guys caught me off guard.
While you're thinking, we have a Q1 from Eric.
Okay.
It says, what are issues that we can expect when a student is enrolled in a school but not enrolled in a class? We have a student on an IEP that the parents are refusing to sign and they are not sending the student to school. The student is in kinder. My advice was to exit the student.
Um,
I don't understand why they're not enrolled in a class. Oh, because they're not active and you don't want to put them active because then they're calculating for attendance when the teacher would have to mark them continuously absent.
so kindergarten is not compulsory. That's the first thing. But
No, not for ADA purpose. Yeah, I think it's more their SIS system, not for ADA purposes though. Eric, do you have Aries? I believe you do. Power School. So Brandy, what I think is happening is that when you put the kid in the SIS, and if you put them active, then you have to assign them. Like if not, they get an error. The SIS won't allow them to like fully enter the student then and make them active then if they're not assigned to a course. And he's saying if he puts them active though, it messes up their SIS versus CALPADS, but then CALPADS, we're saying they need to be assigned to a course or a section.
for fall 2.
And I think it also bears noting that Heather DeFeed is letting us know, all caps, do not disenroll for SPED purposes. Do not disenroll. Talk to the SPED director and or SELPA director.
Yeah, we agree with all of that, Heather.
But I think
didn't want to.
that I'm questioning is we have a student on an IEP that the parents are refusing to sign. So I don't know what that means, because if the parents, if the student is on an active IEP in kindergarten, the parent has already signed an IEP, or is this a student that was initially evaluated, but the parents still have not signed the active IEP? The IEP states that the student needs to have SAI, but the parent wants the student to be mainstream. So again, was this the initial offer of FAPE? Okay, so it was the initial offer of FAPE. The student technically is not. So did the parent consent to special education and services, but did not agree to the offer of FAPE? Because there's a distinction, right? I have to first, as a parent, say, I consent that my student is a child with disabilities and I want them to receive special education services. And then secondly, do I agree with the offer of FAPE that the district is making? So I mean, I agree with Heather. I don't think you should disenroll them. What I would do in this case, if you have this student enrolled, oops, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
If you have this student enrolled, but they're not actually attending at the school, what you potentially could do until the parent agrees to the offer of FAPE is you could move them to the district level, because then it wouldn't require a course, but they would still be reported for purposes of special education. Although they're not technically special until the parent consents to special education and services and ultimately agrees with that offer of FAPE. But that it's an option. So what I would just say is just reach out to us directly. Just send in a ticket to us directly. Don't disenroll them right away. We just want to make sure that you're doing the right thing from a compliance standpoint, Eric.
And then right below that 341, Gary posted the link to the superintendent letter that we were reviewing. Rebecca from Fresno says this would be a good time to remind participants about reporting restraint and seclusion. Lots of new CalPADS coordinators that may need the info.
I think we're going to also cover it in the upcoming regional.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I will cover it a lot in my special education data roadshows. By that time, we will have done some pretty comprehensive data analysis that really identify some pain points. But just as a high-level overview in analyzing the data for restraint and seclusion over the last 2 years, there were roughly a total of 313 districts over the last 2 years that reported data on restraint and seclusion. And 296 of those LEAs are the same LEAs in both years, which means that, number one, it's primarily mostly the same LEAs that are reporting these data and doing their due diligence every year. But the other concern is we have a total of, including independently reporting charters, we have a total of almost 1,900 LEAs in the state. And so it's concerning that a very small percentage of local educational agencies that have students with disabilities, and again, this pertains to general ed students, it's really concerning that such small percentage of districts in the state are reporting these data, particularly if you have high numbers of students that you're referring out to non-public, non-sectarian schools, NPS schools. If you have a lot of NPS students and you're reporting zero restraint or seclusion for those students over the entire year, that's really concerning. The other thing that you should know is that right now, the special education division is analyzing these data because it very likely in next year's annual determination letters, it will become a component that puts a district in a particular monitoring tier. So that's a big deal. So we will be covering this a lot in our special education roadshows.
Like Carol says, Randy sing Endless Love.
You guys know there's a guy in that sings in that song, right?
Rainy or Ray AI me thought. Sorry. It says Sarah Burrell literally sings the song called Love Song.
Oh, that's
really
a great
nice song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great song.
Okay, then we have the conversation from Eric's question. Yesenia has a Q2. Somehow, some of my substitute teachers have a demographic record in CalPADS, and now I am getting a Cert 84 error. No staff assignment for demographics. Do I delete the demographics or do I enter a record effective end date?
You enter in the record effective end date because you can't delete the demographic unless like it's a brand new one.
Yeah.
If it's not a brand new one, if they already had a seat and yours just got in on top of it, then yes, I would recommend deleting because your agency doesn't, it was an accident. But if it's a brand new record, you can't delete that information. And so then, yes, you do just have to put an end date.
Not the effective end date.
No, don't do that. Gary will get mad.
Yeah, me too.
I was gonna say.
If you enter the effective end date, what CalPADS does is it'll automatically create a brand new demographic record for that person, keeping them at your agency, your organization, but with an effective date 1 day after your effective end date. So if you open the demographic modal in online maintenance, it's real tempting to put that effective end date because it's at the top of the modal. You got to scroll all the way down to the bottom and enter the employment end date. And in your case, Yesenia, make sure it's a day sometime before information day. So before 10/4/23.
Chantel Q1 says, does exit code E230 GED remove a student from the cohort, or is it like the CHESP?
No, it does not remove that. Rebecca, thank you for being trigger happy today and finding all of the documents. So Rebecca put it in there and answered, no, it does not remove them from the cohort. And so they are still counted. And that document is the best one to explain which students stay and which students don't. Most stay.
Evan says, Brandy, I feel like you deliver an awesome cover of Muskrat Love by Captain and Tennille.
I love all the song requests.
Yeah. Lisa says, silly love songs by Wings. And Rebecca says, I think Brandy and Paul should sing a duet. Paul has a
I
great
think
voice.
that would be amazing.
That would.
Yes.
Do it.
Do you want birds to fall from trees or something? My God.
That's okay. They'll fly. They'll just fly away, Paul. They'll just fly away.
Oh no, I don't even want to know what you're
Yeah.
suggesting in that YouTube link.
Alex,
no.
sorry to bring it back to serious stuff here. I have a question for the LEAs on the call because I see some of you that are on here still have well over 100 fatal errors for fall 2, and I'm curious if you're interested in sharing in the chat what are some of the obstacles you're encountering, and if you feel like you're on track, you just have a couple more things to change in your SAS before you can post the files. Because we did have some fixes go in yesterday that cleared a lot of the bogus fatal errors. There's one still outstanding, the one that's triggering on retired SSID. So that one's coming on Tuesday, but that's a small fraction of the total error count. Kelly says Cert 54. What is that, Gary?
It's a bug.
Oh.
It is?
6786.
That just happened today, Gary?
No.
29.
Oh, last week.
Friday. That's on Wednesday.
It could be a bug. I don't know. We might have to verify it.
That one day threw us off.
It's triggering incorrectly for seeds with an active SDEM record, and it's targeted for Tuesday. I haven't seen that many of those tickets, so.
No, I think there was only one or two, maybe.
I'll make sure that the DBA is aware of working on that one. Stephanie says we are fixing it in our SAS and then we will upload again and cross our fingers. Okay, that's good to hear. We get a little nervous when we see high volumes of errors.
Keep you from breathing.
Thank you, Ethan. So Angela, Ethan mentioned.
Yes, everybody, be careful.
Is this another cheesy proofs moment, Martha?
Yes. My mic is going up and down, and it just failed to go up this last time.
So Ethan, the staff vacancies, I'll just share with you my best practice. It was to have our talent/HR teams ensure that when that person signed on with us as a substitute teacher or a contractor, that we captured that information at the beginning. Sometimes we even had to just send out like a separate survey to them for the data IT teams to be able to capture whatever information we could for them. Also, if they already have a seed, and having either you having access to your HRIS system or someone at a higher level having it, so they could use that seed lookup tool by, I think it was Social or so. That one's really handy to the LEAs to be able to grab that information quickly.
We have someone that moved to a new HR system and data didn't transfer accurately.
That will do it.
Yeah.
Charter school we're waiting on. Elsa's trying to get her SAS and CRSE cleaned up first.
I did see a message from Fong about why NPS students are expected to have, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. So I just wanted to clarify that we don't expect NPS students to be restrained or secluded, not at all. I think what I was trying to say is that if you guys are familiar with behavioral emergency reports, NPS schools are required to complete behavioral emergency reports just like you are at regular LEAs. And what we find is that oftentimes students that are in the most restrictive environments often have more behavioral emergency reports. And often those behavioral emergency reports contain information about incidents where students had to be physically restrained, in some cases mechanically restrained, or secluded by school personnel. So if you have, if you are receiving behavioral emergency reports from non-public, non-sectarian schools, understand that if those behavioral emergency reports contain information on a student being restrained, physically, mechanically, or secluded, or those behavioral emergency reports contain any information about specific ed code violations that that student may have committed, then that information needs to go into your student information system and be reported to CalPADS through your district. The NPS does not report it directly. It's just a lot of people don't realize that those behavioral emergency reports often translate into incident collection in CalPADS. So it's not that we expect more, it's those schools to have more incidents of restraint and seclusion, but just by the sheer nature of those schools, oftentimes that is the case. We see them occurring there more often.
We have a question from Derek. It says, is CDE still considering reporting CRDC data on behalf of LEAs? That would help fall to progress move more quickly at our LEA. The timing of that was very unfortunate. I don't know where we are, if at all, with CRDC.
I don't recall that one. So Brandy, I'm gonna bounce that one to you.
It's something that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's not on the radar right now for the CalPADS office. So Sean, if they haven't brought it up in one of your meetings, it's not something that there was a point in time where we were kind of trying to do a gap analysis between what you're required to submit for CRDC and how CalPADS could help in the generation of some of the data that you need to submit directly to CRDC. But also there is the option for the state to act as a liaison to submit those data. California is not doing that currently. But it's due to other competing priorities, it just hasn't been something that the CalPADS office has been willing to entertain thus far.
Agreed. I thought it was just I actually didn't know there was work done on it. I thought it was just a thought, an idea.
Well, this was a long time ago.
Okay.
Long time ago, where we did sort of a gap analysis and we talked about it. But it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, every time it comes up, almost every year, it gets kind of shot down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So Derek, what I would recommend in the interim is that most SIS systems have codified that information for you. And since your SIS system should reflect what is in CalPADS, your own system is the best resource to pull that information from. And then a lot of SIS systems already have like a CRDC kind of mappings for that. So just ensure that mapping is completed correctly per your SIS guidance. And that should make it a little bit more smoother for entering in the data in the CRDC or uploading.
And Sean, when we talked about this internally a week or two ago, somebody from the CalPADS operations office was going to determine what is the consequence of missing the CRDC deadline and help people rank their priorities, fall to versus CRDC. Do you know if there's any progress on that?
If that was me, there was no progress on that. It sounded very familiar, and so no. No. We'll get to that one though, Angela. I promise I'll get to it.
Just trying to help people prioritize. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's
I'm sorry. I didn't understand the last part of the question. Yes, the priority is going to be your fall 2 data. Yes, that is going to be the priority. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part, Angela. The priority is your fall 2 data because there is no amendment window for your fall 2 data. There will be listserv messages also in the digest as well too. And then those LEAs that are appearing to be struggling, there will be targeted messages that go out to your LEAs and concern if you're getting in your data for fall 2.
We are past 4.
I think someone just filled in because they didn't want Brandy to sing.
Thank you. Woohoo!
I'm just looking at the volume of errors folks have, and I'm starting to get heart palpitations. So I'm just trying to figure out what's holding people back. And I knew CRDC was a pain point. Just was curious if there were other parts. I think CERT 104 was mentioned. Gary, what is that one?
Oh, yeah, missing at service code.
Anybody have tips on that one? I don't think I've helped anybody with that one recently.
I mean, really, it's just making sure that in your SIS you have that field populated. It's any section that has an EL student needs to have that field populated.
Yes, and if you are not sure of that teacher's CLAD, just message your credential analyst and they should be able to tell you that. Normally you have like a set standards also too. If your instruction and curriculum director is there, you know whether to mark such and such classes all 3s or all 4s, and so forth. And then Janet, thank you, Angela, for posting the two-way listserv in there. People, we have one comment saying that they might get stuck in CalPads. If you are getting stuck and you have exhausted all your options, you reviewed the cert error, you have sent the file up 5 different ways, and you still don't understand why this won't go in, please put in a ticket. Okay.
Yeah,
Please put
I would
in a
add.
ticket.
I think that's good, Sean. And I would add, because Janet is new, that feel free to put in a ticket and ask for your CSIS agent to set up a call with you, and they can walk you through some tips on, learning how to troubleshoot those errors so you can start doing it on your own quicker.
And I would add, for those folks that, are having difficulty because they're juggling many things, is that when we put out the milestone calendar, and that's in the each submission, we have a checklist, and there's a tab in there with the milestones in there to plan accordingly, knowing that you got other things going on, and that will help you try to stay on track so that you're not still resolving errors at the very end of a submission, because we'd like you guys to get to the place 2 weeks prior to the deadline that you're at 0 errors or minimal amount, because you really need to spend a good week or more reviewing reports for accuracy. So that's why Angela's having heartburn seeing all of those errors so close to the deadline. Me as well.
And for you new people, also those table of contents that I place in there, this is a good source of sorting through all the training and pinpointing spots, because I do put the table of contents in there purposely. When I'm editing, I come across a statement or something that is resident in my mind about I've heard this question over and over again. I do mark that question as a point in the table of contents, so you can click on it and go directly to, or do a search in Word, those table of contents to find starting points and pinpointing information a little quicker and easier to help you get through all of this information you got to put in there too.
Okay, well, I think that's it for today's Q&A. We'll be back next week, folks. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
And happy long weekend. You're having holidays.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's gonna rain all here all day Monday. Boo.
That's true. I am saving the chat, and just as soon as it saves in a few seconds, I will drop it in the chat for you to download. Someone requested that earlier. Good job, Alex. Good job, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
I have one quick comment. I'm sorry, just because
Okay.
it's Mary saying it's a hang up for her, Mary and Natasha, that the revisions take a long time. And at the top of the call, Gary showed the data discrepancy screen. That screen runs a whole lot faster than your revision. So if you still have any data discrepancies, that screen is where I would check because it runs multiple times throughout the day, whereas your revision, you may only get 1 or 2 copies a day. It does not have the legacy cert errors, which is the one downside, but any CDDs that you have will show up there. So hopefully that's a tip that will help you. And I'm done.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
Good job, guys. Good
Bye.
job, team. Very good. All right. I got it from here.